Today I'm going to show you how to install corner beads and put the second coat of mud on. So I'm inviting you to come along for another episode of Virtual Carpentry. The drywall tape is all installed over top of the joints. I then go around and put the corner beads on. Magic beans for sale. Magic beans for sale. It grows green clovers and blue diamonds. For 90-degree outside corners, I use a product which is called corner bead. Oh, I mean, magic beads for sale. Magic beads for sale. So this is bent slightly tighter than 90 degrees, and that's to allow it to stick out a little bit. And the reason that it's called corner bead is if you look right here on the point, it is actually rounded. This part sticks out up a little bit higher than what the rest of this angle does. Now, where we bring our two pieces of drywall together at the corner, it's important that the one doesn't stick out past the actual corner. So I always give it a little check, and I can see this one right here. You can see that this drywall is sticking out a little bit. And you can see it's not much, but that's just enough to mess us up. All I have to do is take my scrubber and take that off. So in a typical corner like this, I'm just going to measure floor to ceiling. And you know what? If I'm a ½ inch short on the bottom, that's okay, because our baseboard probably covers at least 4 or 6 inches anyways. So we don't have to be exact, but we do want to push it up tight when we install it. You can simply nail the corner bead on and check it as you go. You just use a straight edge and put it against here. You want to look down to see if there's a gap between your knife and this bead. No part of this metal should be touching the knife whenever it's in the corner. So you should see a gap, something like that. So I have what's called a corner bead crimper. And it goes around, it goes over top of the corner bead like this. What this does is these teeth come out, and they put a little crimp into the metal and it makes it bite in. Hold it in tight, couple taps, smack. And hitting onto this frame of the crimper will actually set the bead where it needs to go. Now at this point, I like to come over to the bead and check it with my knife. And I'm looking that I have that little air gap. And you can see the bead right there is holding the knife out. And that's exactly what we want. I can see this is starting to get a little close over here. So I can always move it a little bit if I want. Now with the bead crimper, it's not totally necessary to nail this up, but I like to just for extra security. Now I'm a big fan of drywall screws, except for corner beads. Since drywall screws have this bugle-shaped head, it causes the metal to push in, and it'll cause it to bend a little bit, and you won't have the straight corner that you originally intended to have. Now I can think of at least 6 different types of beads that they use for finishing drywall. This is one of the ones I like to use. It's a vinyl bead, and it's called tearaway. So what it does, it's an L-shaped piece with a little piece out at the side that'll tear away later on. So if you can look right in there, you'll see that it comes out. And this is the bead that our knife is going to run on. So where this is used, is up in places like this where you're going to have drywall meeting another type of material. In this case, under the stairs. So when we install the drywall, we always make sure we leave about 1/8 to 1/4 inch of gap between the drywall and whatever we're doing, because we want to get this piece here to go back in. And it'll slide back into there. And when we install it, we push it up tight and we put staples into all this. Now, this little tearaway piece I talked about, we leave that on until the finishing's done. That's just a guard to keep from slopping mud all up on the bottom side or the edge of the piece of wood or wherever you're going to. Whenever you're done with the project, you take a knife and you just make sure the mud's cut a little bit and you tear this right off. And it gives a beautiful finished drywalled edge. But that's after 3 coats of mud on here. So we have another kind of corner bead here. I know it looks like drywall tape, and it is drywall tape. But what it has is 2 metal strips in it. So this is made to fold and make any angle of corner that we want. Now I know it's not the greatest stuff, but it really works for corners that aren't 90 degrees. So I'm going to use it in the skylight where we have about a 70-degree corner. All I'm going to do is mud it up, fold this, put it into place. So that about does it for all of our outside corner beads and such. Now whenever I have something like this, where we have a high traffic area, sometimes more like an archway like I'm going to have across the room there, I'm always worried about the future, somebody bumping something heavy into it. You never know what's going to happen. To give it some extra security, we just put some tape on the 2 sides, and we got to be careful that we don't go over the bead edge of the corner bead. So you don't even have to do it the whole way, just in the areas, you know, maybe from about head height to knee height, just for that extra little insurance. And you just keep it back off to the edge. And I use all-purpose mud once again because I want it to shrink in pretty far. And this should actually be dry in a few hours and ready for some other mud to go onto there. Now we're going to start coating corner beads, and we're using the low shrink lightweight mud. Now you may ask, why don't you use it for everything? Well, here's why. Look at it. It's not a real smooth mud. It's great for filling, but it's not going to give you that nice finished coat. So that's the disadvantage that the lightweight, low shrink mud has. But we use it for filling. And something we have to fill is this corner bead. We have these gaps around it now. So lightweight mud is definitely what you want to start this with. If we were to use all-purpose mud, we would definitely need 3 full coats of mud. Sometimes you can get away with 2 coats of mud using this lightweight mud. So what I'm going to do is load up my knife. Okay, wipe the back clean. We're always wiping our tools clean on front and back. So that's just a light residue you're seeing on there. Every once in a while, if you get too much mud built up on the back, go over your scrub bucket, clean it up. So I'm going to load up my knife. I like to pull a little bit off the corners. And whenever I start doing corner beads, I like to hold my pan right underneath it in case mud starts falling off, and it usually does. And I'm using a 10-inch knife. The next coat will be a 12-inch knife. But I want to fill this as much as possible and make it kind of as wide as possible because there's less chance of picking up that it's not a true plane. So at this point, I'm just going along, filling the bead. Now I'm going to drag this back. Okay? I'm going to zero the edge out up top, or the outside edge, no matter, it isn't always on the top. In this case, it's on the top. I zeroed that edge out by twisting my knife again. And then I'm going to lay my knife flat, and I'm going to let it run right on this corner here. Remember that corner on the bead, on the corner bead, it's a true bead. That is your straight edge that you're pulling off of. You have to be careful, and notice that my knife is overhanging a little bit. I'm dropping it down about a 1/4 inch below the edge. Now you have to be careful, because if you're coming along and you go up too high, look what it does. It gouges it out. See what that's doing? So that bead down there is the important part to be running on. I also clean the edges of the bead as I go. Now I can catch the bottom. I like to get everything while I'm in one spot so that I don't have to move. And that's how we do corner beads. So this is how I coat the tearaway L bead. That little bead up in the corner, I have to make sure I run the edge of my knife onto that. And then I just pull it just like I'm doing regular corner bead. Notice that little 1/4 inch lip sticking out on the bottom side of the wood. That's just a splash guard now. We don't run mud over top of that, but that just protects the wood, and that will tear off at a later time after all the drywall's finished. So I want to show you what I do in this case. The knife will only go up in so far. I'm only able to finish that. So the longer you do any sort of job, you pick up little tricks, you invent some of your own tools. And here's one that I had made. I'd never seen anything like this. I just took a drywall knife. It was probably one that was going bad on me, had a chipped edge or something, and I cut it on an angle. So I can now use this up in here to run these corners. It's not perfect, but I'll say this. It's way better than nothing. That's looking pretty good. You know, it typically takes 3 coats of mud to do all of our beads. We're going to try to get away with 2 coats because we're using low shrink, lightweight mud. So I want to invite you back in the coming days where we're going to continue with our corner beads, but we're also going to start doing these walls. We're going to put the progressive coats over top. So, won't you join us next time here on Virtual Carpentry? This is Mr. Carlini saying, as you were.